Hey guys, so this is Crossroads Part 2, carrying on, and we had some questions at the end of the last one. Where does C diminished come from? Why does it have a double flat 7? What is a double flat 7? Why is it B double flat? Why, when you change from the C diminished, do you go to C flat 7 and not B7? Because it looks like a B7. But we're calling it C flat 7. Well, that's easy, that one. C is the root, E flat is a minor third, G flat is a flat 5, and B double flat is a double flat 7. So as soon as you move that one note down, E flat now becomes a major third, G flat now becomes a perfect fifth, and B double flat becomes a flat 7. So that's why we call it C flat 7. So where does C diminished come from? I've got to try and hold a guitar up here to show you. It's on the 7th degree of the scale, and the scale that it comes from is D flat harmonic major. Big words, don't get scared by big words, alright? It's just a scale like any other. So I'm going to start off showing you D flat major, which is D flat is a root, E flat is a 2, F is a 3, G flat is a 4, A flat is a 5, B flat is a 6, C is a 7, and D flat is the octave. That's a D flat major scale. So to make it into a harmonic major scale, you take one note out of that scale, and that note is a 6th note, and you flatten it. So D flat is a 1, E flat's a 2, F is 3, G flat is a 4, A flat is a 5, B flat is a 6. So what do? You've got a flat and a 6, so you've got B flat. It's almost like a joke. B double flat. Very Spinal Tap, but so that is your harmonic major scale, and your C diminished comes on the 7th degree, or the 7th note of that scale. So D flat harmonic major scale gives you C diminished. Okay, so C diminished, you probably heard, like most people would usually do, the arpeggio. But the actual scale that you play under that is the same, basically the same notes as the D flat harmonic major, but thinking from C, this is what the intervals are. C, D flat is a flat 2, E flat is a flat 3, F is a 4, G flat is a flat 5, A flat is a flat 6, B double flat is the double flat 7, and C is the root. I wanted to show you something that really helped me. Gave me a bit of a aha moment. So I'm going to start off basically, and I'm going to fill this in. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but it's like the D flat major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 octave, and these are the notes. Now, we always reference everything with the major scale, and then if the scale differs in any way, like for example, if to turn this into a Lydian, you get to the 4th note and you sharpen that and they become a Lydian scale. But you always use this as a framework to start off with. So with this framework, if you take this major scale, D flat major scale, but you start it on the 2nd note, this is now what we call modes. This is the 2nd mode, and we call that the Dorian mode. If you start it on the 3rd note of this scale, that would be the mode Phrygian, the Phrygian mode. If you start on the 4th, it'd be Lydian. If you start on the 5th, it'd be Mixolydian, be Aeolian on the 6th note, and it'd be Locrian on the 7th note. Starting on the 1st note, we know it's a major scale, and this is why people get confused. It is a major scale, but because we've got this all these subsets of modes, we have to include the Ionian mode, which is exactly the same as the major scale which it came from. I know that's confusing, but that's as easy as I can make it for you. Okay, so I filled this in, so we know that's a major scale at the top. This here is exactly the same scale with one note difference, and that's a flat 7. So it's like a major scale with a flat 7. People would call that the Mixolydian mode, fair enough. But the point I want to try and show you is this. If it's an Ionian mode with a flat 7, then it'll be a Dorian with a flat 6, and it'll be a Phrygian with a flat 5, a Lydian with a flat 4, a Mixolydian with a flat 3, an Aeolian with a flat 2, and the Locrian with a flat 1 or root. But you can see if you do something to the Ionian scale, the major scale at the beginning, which we did, we flattened the 7, it's going to follow all the way through 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 through your modes. Now for me that is quite a big eye-opener. We wouldn't typically do this. If you've got an Ionian with a flat 7, that's a Mixolydian scale. If you've got a Dorian with a flat 6, that's an Aeolian mode. If you've got a Phrygian with a flat 5, that would be a Locrian mode. And then if you keep going on. These are basically, it's still the same modes. It's all coming from the major scale. It's the same major scale modes. But when I fill in the next one, the next row here, which would be the major scale with a flat 6, then you'll see how this is all working out. Okay, so now I've filled in the bottom one, and you can see what we've got here now is, the D flat harmonic major scale, which is basically a D flat major with one note difference, which is a flat 6. And similarly, like I just said before, because it's a major scale with a flat 6, it's obviously an Ionian mode with a flat 6, therefore it's a Dorian mode with a flat 5, it's a Phrygian mode with a flat 4, it's a Lydian mode with a flat 3, it's a Mixolydian mode with a flat 2, it's an Aeolian mode with a flat 1 or flat root, which we know that then turns into a 1, a sharp 2 or an augmented second, a major third, a sharp 4, a sharp 5, a major 6 and a major 7, and that's the scale that we played over the augmented chord, which is a 1, a major third and a sharp 5. So that's the augmented on that degree of the scale. And we know that the C diminished, the 7th note of the scale, the 7th mode is a Locrian mode, and because like this started off as an Ionian flat 6, this would be a flat 7. Well, the Locrian mode already has a flat 7. It's a root, a flat 2, a flat 3, a 4, flat 5, a flat 6 and a flat 7. So what you end up doing is doing a double flat 7. That's why there's a double flat 7, and that's where we get the diminished scale from, is on that 7th degree. It's a Locrian double flat 7. But the point I'm trying to make is how this, this basically keeps running. Flat 6, flat 5, flat 4, all the way down. No matter what your scale is, whatever you do to the Ionian, the major scale, it follows down through with all the modes. I haven't seen anybody teaching this idea, but for me, it really opened up a lot of ideas. I mean, I just saw things very differently. I don't know if you will or not. Hopefully you will. Okay, so I want to stick with this D flat major with the flat 6. Which is the D harmonic major scale, but now I want to play the 6th mode of that, meaning I'm going to start on the 6th note, which is B double flat. The next note is C, so that's a sharp 2 or an augmented second. D flat is a major third, E flat is a sharp 4, F is a sharp 5, G flat is a major 6, A flat is a major 7, and then we're back to the octave. So that's the scale that you play underneath the augmented chord, which is a root, a 1, major third, and a sharp 5. Okay guys, so here's our cycle of fifths again. C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp and B sharp up at the top. So that's the cycle of fifths right there. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. And this triangle represents the augmented chord. C at the top, 12 o'clock, E at 4 o'clock, G sharp at 8 o'clock. So C to E is a major third, E to G sharp is a major third interval, and G sharp to B sharp is a major third interval. So these are all major third intervals here, and that's what makes up the augmented chord. Okay, this is our triangle working from D flat harmonic major. We've got the B double flat is the root, D flat is a major third from the B double flat. From D flat to F is another major third, and F to A is another major third. So these are all major third intervals. Obviously there's just 3 of these, and once again, like we said before, 3 into 12 notes is 4. And you'll see when I put this on the neck, this chord will repeat itself every 4 frets. Okay, so here's our chord on the guitar neck. B double flat is on the 7th fret on the 4th string. D flat is on the 6th fret on the 3rd string, and F is on the 2nd string on the 6th fret. And like I said, this chord repeats itself every 4 frets. So something magical about this D flat harmonic major mode is that both the gateway chords that Pat Martino refers to, the diminished chord and the augmented chord, are right next to each other in this scale. The diminished chord is on the 7th mode, 7th degree of the scale, 7th note of the scale, and the augmented is on the 6th note of the scale, or the 6th mode. So both the gateway chords are on this scale and they're right next to each other, 6th and 7th modes. Pretty amazing. Okay, so the augmented chord is another gateway chord, one of Pat Martino's gateway chords, and there's a lot of information that I need to give you, to reveal to you with that. There's some real magic with it. I'm going to do that at a later stage because I want to try and get back to the blues a little bit, because this is getting very theory heavy, and I want to just type back in with the blues. I'm going to stick with the D flat harmonic major scale because there's one 3rd chord in there that I think is pretty magical. I want to show that to you. But this is a scale that just keeps giving. So let's have a look at this a second. You can see at the top here we've got the D flat major scale that I showed you before, and it's got all the modes in there, you know, the Ionian, the Dorian, the Phrygian, etc, etc. So let's focus on this first. I just want to focus on the 3rd one, which is the Phrygian, F Phrygian. Now the intervals in the Phrygian scale, there's F is a flat 2, a flat 3, a 4, a 5, flat 6 and a flat 7. So essentially it's a minor mode. Now when we play this scale, the harmonic major, with the flat 6, 1 note difference, that effectively gives us a Phrygian but with a flat 4. So now this is the Phrygian with a flat 4. There's F, which is your root, flat 2, flat 3, flat 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. And that gives you your Hendrix chord. So we can see we're back with the blues again. Phrygian flat 4 is the Hendrix chord. People say, what do you play under that? Well, play the Phrygian with a flat 4. As the name tells you, you've got all the notes, you know what it is, and it comes from the D flat harmonic major scale. Okay, so I want to talk about the harmonic major scale, because this seems to be a scale that's it was used a lot way back in the day. Like this, you know, singer-songwriters back in the day used it a lot. Clearly the Beatles and that generation, they knew all about that. I mean, the augmented, I mean, George Harrison uses the augmented chord all the time. Diminished chord, you'll hear that in, you know, when I finally get all this completely revealed to you, you'll see how the modulations that these, you know, these two chords can create for you. So it's an important scale that I think's been forgotten about a little bit, and clearly I think this is why Hendrix knew about it, and I think this is really important. Hendrix obviously was really well steeped in the blues. He's a blues player, but he backed so many R&B acts, and like I said, these singer-songwriters of the day would be using a lot of these chord progressions and a lot of these modulations. So obviously Jimi was playing those things, and he obviously knew about this scale. I mean, the Hendrix chord, we call it the Hendrix chord. I mean, he didn't invent it, but he basically made it famous. And the next thing that I need to really address is, like, the idea of the blues, like we said, Robert Johnson, the whole thing. Well, in the first video, we were talking about Robben Ford, and we were talking about Mike Stern, both of which played with Miles Davis. Well, Jimi Hendrix was going to play with Miles Davis, and we know that Jimi's style was getting more and more jazz influence. I think Jimi was like learning a lot more about these modes, and that's why he had that unique sort of crossover between, being steeped in the blues, but also knowing these other scales, these other things, and how they modulate between different, different key centers and stuff. And I think that's a key element that people, overlook with Jimi. Okay, so once again, it's not about how crazy my hair is, blah, blah, blah. We've got all that out of the way. This is about trying to show you a different way of looking at music and show you some of these interesting ways to travel through it. In the next video, I aim to look at the augmented chord and show you how that is a gateway chord and where that leads you. That's very interesting. I'm also going to give you another scale. We're going to move on from the D flat harmonic major scale. I'm going to give you a scale that will reveal both the major blues scale and the minor blues scale. So that's going to be pretty cool. And I'm still curious as to why Miles Davis keeps cropping up. Did he make a deal with the devil?